Although horror has to be my least favourite genre for film and TV, American Horror Story, created by Ryan Murphy, has to be the one exception. I love how each season is its own self-contained story, which all share the same universe. It somehow manages to fulfill and break every horror cliché there is, and it actually works. The characters are very well written with intricate backstories and interesting personality development. I've always preferred villains to heroes, and heroes are a rare breed in this series. Nearly everyone is either a psychopath, or at the very least manipulative. With that said though, I thought I'd analyse the characters from the first season of American Horror Story, Murder House, to help you gain a greater understanding of typology and the characters. Let's start off with the patriarch of the main family, Ben Harmon. I think it's pretty appropriate to start with Ben considering he's a psychiatrist, but not a particularly great one it seems. Ben is an ISFP, which means that his function order goes introverted feeling, extroverted sensing, introverted intuition, and then extroverted thinking. Introverted feeling is a judging function which primarily focuses on creating an internal moral framework where subjective values are applied to the real world. Those with high FI are highly concerned with how they as an individual feel about things in the world around them. In healthy individuals, FI can be used as a driving factor to cause change in the world or self-expression. In unhealthy individuals, however, such as Ben Harmon, it can cause one to become egotistical, believing that how they feel is the only thing which matters, and they may begin to feel victimised by those around them. Ben, although he tries to help people, is a selfish man who believes that the world is out to get him. It's unfair that his wife won't forgive him for cheating, it's unfair that Hayden won't let him go, and it's unfair that his daughter is being so uncooperative. This way of thinking indicates that he has high levels of egocentrism, meaning that he believes that everyone else's life should revolve around him. This is even mentioned in the series when he shouts at Vivian, "Why are you punishing me?" And she responds, "I'm not punishing you, you narcissistic arsehole." His high FI, however, is what makes him so passionate about trying to fix his marriage. His second function, SE, is a perceiving function which primarily focuses on the present moment. Those with high SD have the ability to quickly react to whatever obstacle is in their environment. Despite Ben's many faults, he's very good at thinking on his toes and taking action to rectify a problematic situation. His SE, however, is also what causes him a lot of problems. Since he is so focused on the present moment, he can often lose sight of what is important to him or any future repercussions his action may cause. This ties into his third function, NI. Although Ben is very good at coming up with solutions to his problems, the solutions are only short term and actually cause more problems down the road, such as when he lies to Vivian about seeing Hayden in Boston. This indicates that his NI is underdeveloped and out of sync with his SC, which dominates a large part of his personality, a possible reason for why he is prone to cheating. He is so focused on the present moment that he may ignore what problems his actions may bring. His NI can be seen in use, however, such as when he visualises he and his family moving into the new house. His last function is extroverted thinking, or TE. Ben is a pretty rational guy who tries to rationalise everything going on around him. The stubbornness of his TE makes him refuse any ideas which aren't logically sound and explains it through either hallucinations or flat out denies it. Ben's personality undergoes a lot of development throughout the story, however, and becomes a much more balanced individual, allowing him to work with his wife and support her instead of working simply to get her back. And his NI develops so he finally doesn't perform every action on a whim and considers what actions he should take to guarantee the best result. Next we have the matriarch of the family, Vivian Harmon, who is an ISFJ. An ISFJ's function order goes introverted sensing, extroverted feeling, introverted thinking, and then extroverted intuition. This means that her functions are the complete reverse of her husband's and nearly a complete mirror as well. Introverted sensing is a perceiving function which primarily focuses on comparing the present moment to stored memories the individual has obtained. Those with high SI are also often highly aware of their bodily needs, whilst extroverted sensing is focused on sensing data outside of their bodies. Vivian, throughout the series, is always looking back on the past and finds it incredibly difficult to forgive Ben for his infidelity. She seems to reminisce about the past quite a lot, referencing it in a number of her conversations, such as how she used to be musical, her miscarriage, and giving birth to Violet. Despite finding it hard to forgive Ben, she still loves and stands up for him, indicating that she still holds strongly onto her memories of Ben before the miscarriage and his cheating. She also seems very in tune with her body, eating raw organs for the pregnancy, and not liking the microwave as a form of cooking. Those with high SI also tend to prefer a normal routine, and thus Vivian is the first person to want to move out of the house and find somewhere more normal. Her second function is FE, a judging function which primarily focuses on understanding other people's emotions and aims to reduce conflict. Vivian seems to have quite a high EQ and uses her emotional intelligence to relate to other people such as Moira and Constance. She is greatly upset by the continuous conflict with Ben and her daughter's negative outlook on life. Her FE can be a downfall for her at times, however, since the emotions of other people affect her so much. It can cause her a lot of internal stress and has clouded her judgment from time to time. Her third function is TI. Vivian seems to analyse whatever is going on around her quite a lot, but unlike those with high TI, she mostly analyses things which cause certain emotions, such as Ben potentially lying or Violet's isolation. After she dies, her TI and FE can be seen working in harmony with one another when she confronts Ben, who is about to commit suicide. She demonstrates a great understanding of what he is going through and comes to terms with what has happened, allowing her to forgive him. She not only successfully emotionally fulfills Ben, but also logically explains to him why he shouldn't kill himself and that she wants him to take her child far, far away. Her last function is NE, or extroverted intuition. Vivian, despite being pretty smart both logically and emotionally, can find it hard to grasp new concepts and ideas. This has led to a number of emotional breakdowns and her catatonic state while she's locked up. Similarly to Ben, by the end of the story, she has learned to be more open-minded to different ideas and opinions, and in turn has led to her becoming a lot more satisfied in life, or death. Thirdly, we have Viola Harmon, the daughter of Ben and Vivian. Violet is an INTP, which means her functions are introverted thinking, extroverted intuition, introverted sensing, and extroverted feeling. This means that she shares the same functions as her mother, although nearly in the reverse order. On top of this, Violet suffers from depression, which leads to her suicide. Her symptoms include undereating, isolating herself, loss of interest in activities, irritability, persistent feelings of emptiness, self-harming, and thoughts/attempt at suicide. An INTP's first function is TI, a judging function which primarily focuses on creating an internal framework of logic and understanding. Like her mother, Violet seems to analyse everything going on around her, but unlike her mother, this isn't limited to things which affect the emotions of other people, but simply whatever interests her at the time. She analyses the relationship of Vivian and Ben and how they ignore her. She analyses what caused Tate to become a mass murderer and curious to see what others thought of him, and she seems to enjoy thinking about the various murders and crimes which had happened in that house. The second function is NE, a perceiving function which primarily focuses on seeing the various possibilities in the present moment. One of the few things Violet seems to enjoy doing is talking about philosophy with Tate and amusing herself with different ideas she has come up with. Like many NE users, Violet has a non-conformist streak to her, fighting against what is popular and what society expects of her. Although she is apparently smart and has the intelligence to go to Harvard University, she does not apply herself at school and eventually stops attending altogether, since it doesn't interest her. She would rather read a book or research a particular topic which intrigues her. Her third function is SI. Like her mother, Violet seems to compare a lot of what is going on around her to the past, which she holds in disdain. She seems to crave a normal, calm way of living, but due to her parents' drama and Tate's history, she is unable to obtain that. She mainly seems to use her SI to recall data for future analyses. Her last function is FE. Violet doesn't put much value into emotions and prefers to judge things purely through logic. This in turn has led to her not getting along with many other people and is unable to express herself very well. One could argue that her self-harm is a form of self-expression because she doesn't know how else to convey her feelings of sadness and distress. Violet prefers to look at the grey area of moral issues, such as, is Tate a good person? Speaking of Tate, Violet's boyfriend is an ISFP, the same personality type as Ben. This could be why Tate enjoys talking to Ben so much, because he feels like Ben understands him. It could also be the reason as to why Ben opens up to Tate, saying, "I was a lot like you in my younger days." Although Ben calls Tate a psychopath, I do not believe that is the case. Instead, I diagnosed Tate with antisocial personality disorder, or APD. You see, a defining trait for psychopathy is a complete lack of empathy. Tate, on the other hand, is a pretty empathetic guy. His mother even explained that he is in fact too sensitive to what people say around him. APD, on the other hand, is a personality disorder characterised by impulsive, irresponsible or criminal behaviour. His symptoms include manipulative tendencies, lack of concern, regret or remorse about other people's distress, disregard for normal social behaviour, unable to control his anger, blames others for problems in his life, and repeatedly breaks the law. This all ties into Tate's first function, introverted feeling. Tate judges everything in the world according to his values. He is very passionate about how he feels about many things, and maybe the reason he went on the killing spree at his school. The intensity of his emotions can be a bit overwhelming at times, and may act impulsively as long as he's acting true to himself. Similarly to Ben, this has led to him becoming very egocentric, believing that the only person in his feelings who matter are his own and Violet's. His second function is SE, which once again contributes to his impulsiveness and eruptive temper. Tate seems to live for the moment, not bothering to think about the past or the future. He is also very reactive to his environment, being an adept fighter and decent runner. Although he enjoys his philosophical talks with Violet, he seems to crave physical activities, and thus jumps at the opportunity to go on an adventure on Halloween. He also seems rather excited when the Harmon family is in danger, such as when the copycat criminals invade their home. Tate really enjoyed tricking and killing the criminals, Tate's third function is NI, which he doesn't seem to use that much similarly to Ben. He mainly uses NI to help him achieve whatever he wants to achieve in the present moment. Generally speaking, whatever Tate puts his mind to, he actively goes out to achieve that. He sees himself as the caretaker of the other ghosts, going out of his way to help them achieve happiness. This in turn is what led him to rape Vivian, to fulfill Nora's desire to have a child. This, however, is also an example of how he needs to develop this function, since he failed to see how this is a problem regarding his relationship with Violet and the future consequences it would have. His last function is extroverted thinking. Once again, Tate doesn't seem to use his TE all that much. He doesn't seem to care that much about logic and sees it as unimportant compared to how he feels about things. Perhaps this is why he didn't consider going to murder a large number of his classmates was a bad idea. Better yet, why he didn't have a plan for when the police were to come after him. Next up we have Constance, Tate's mother. Constance is an ENFJ, meaning her functions are extroverted feeling, introverted intuition, extroverted sensing, and introverted thinking. Constance also suffers from narcissistic personality disorder, which symptoms include having an exaggerated sense of self-importance, exaggerating her achievements and talents, preoccupied with fantasies about success, beauty and power, taking advantage of others, inability or unwilling to recognise the needs of others and behaves in an arrogant manner. Those with high FE are often very in tune with other people's emotions, and whilst this may be used to help some relate to other people, unhealthy individuals may use this gift to emotionally manipulate people. Since those with high FE can often quickly read what emotionally affects other people, such stimuli can be harnessed to achieve a certain result. Constance is a very manipulative, selfish character who only helps the Harmon family since she has her own secret agenda. Constance seems to be able to easily read Vivian and Ben, and less so Violet. She seems to enjoy playing mind games, and that is part of the reason she has so much disdain for Larry. Larry, being so deeply in love with Constance, would do whatever she asked without question. This makes Larry boring to her. He gives in too easily and he's no fun to manipulate. Her second function is NI, a perceiving function which is primarily concerned with identifying patterns and working towards the future. Constance easily connects the dots regarding the ghosts of the murder house, the pregnancy of Vivian, and Joas Kandarian's plan to tear down the house. On top of this, she is always looking towards the future, manipulating certain characters such as Tristan, Vivian and Moira to do certain things to ensure she gets what she wants. Her third function is SE. She is very aware of what is going on around her. She seems to share her son's impulsiveness, but to a much lesser degree. When angered, she can be quick to retaliate or seek vengeance, such as baking poisonous muffins for Violet, threatening Vivian and killing her son Beau. Her last function is TI. Working in conjunction with her other functions, Constance analyses her surroundings to help her make decisions and weigh up the pros and cons of certain outcomes. In an ironic way, Constance is a pretty well developed individual, but she uses her functions in a selfish, unhealthy way. Let's move on to Constance's daughter, Addie London. I won't spend too much time on her as I feel like her character was pretty underdeveloped, although it is justified considering how Constance seems to have raised her. Addie is an ESFP, meaning her functions are extroverted sensing, introverted feeling, extroverted thinking, and introverted intuition. Addie doesn't seem to care about much other than being a pretty girl, and enjoying her time with Tristan. Other than that, she is mostly entirely focused on the present, often breaking into the Harmon household for fun and to play with the ghosts. Her second function is FI. This is what gives Addie an internal sense of right and wrong, which often causes her conflict with her mother. Her third function, TE, allows Addie to make logical conclusions about what is going on around her, seeing things in black and white terms. However, she has been seen to not use her TE that well, such as when she goes to pet the dog, even though the dog seems irritated, and running across the street without looking for oncoming traffic. Her last function, NI, helps Addie understand what generally happens in the murder house, warning many people that they will die in there. Next we have Ben's former lover, Hayden McClain, who is an ENFP. Her function order goes extroverted intuition, introverted feeling, extroverted thinking, and introverted sensing. Hayden has histrionic personality disorder, which is characterised by constant attention seeking, emotional overreaction, and is easily suggestible. Her symptoms include constantly needing reassurance, excessive sensitivity to criticism, inappropriate seductive behaviour, using semantic symptoms to garner attention, rapidly shifting emotional states, believes that her relationships are more intimate than they really are, rash decision making, easily influenced, and overly traumatic. The ENFP's first function, NE, allows Hayden to quickly come up with various possibilities and accept new information. Hayden is quite imaginative and prefers thinking about what could be possible rather than what is actually going on around her. She is preoccupied with her fantasy of living with Ben with a child and tries many methods to separate him and Vivian, such as emotional manipulation, blackmail, and threats of physical violence. This eventually leads to her killing Ben to prevent him from leaving her forever. Her high NE is also what helped her come to terms with being a ghost so fast. Her second function, FI, allows her to quickly judge various situations as either right or wrong according to her moral compass. She considers Ben's actions wrong, and sees him as a liar, but at the same time is still deeply infatuated with him. She also uses her view of justice to manipulate the other ghosts into trying to help her. Her third function, TE, allows Hayden to be quite decisive in moments of doubt. She doesn't care for logic all that much, but she has a good understanding of what is fair and just, and uses that knowledge to her advantage. Her lack of TE, however, is what led to her making some bad decisions, such as blackmailing Ben that she would end their marriage while she is still alive, and killing Ben thinking that they would be together forever, not realising he would ignore her forever at the same time. Her last function is SI. Although Hayden claims to want a normal life and cherishes her moments with Ben, she appears to crave drama too much, and the simple life will never be enough for her. She does recall her memories quite a lot, but only memories which back up the judgment she has made with her FI. This in turn has caused her judgments to be rather skewed and biased. As a victim of Constance's skewed judgment, let's now analyse Moira OHara, an ISTJ, meaning her function order goes introverted sensing, extroverted thinking, introverted feeling, and then extroverted intuition. This is the complete reverse of Hayden. Moira's first function, SI, is what causes Moira to be so focused in the past. Everything what goes on in the Harmon household is compared to Moira's experience when she first worked there, and when she was killed by Constance. This in turn has led her to believe that all men are the same, since she has personally experienced that men are selfish and lustful. Moira also seems to use historical facts to back up this belief, such as when she educates Vivian about the origin of the word hysteria. Moira's SI and FI, her third function, are very obviously tied, her SI recording data to back up her set beliefs. Her FI can be used to passionately speak out against any injustices she feels she has experienced, such as when Vivian attempts to fire her. Moira's second function, extroverted thinking, or TE, is a judging function which is primarily focused on assessing the world based on facts and logic. Moira has a very black and white way of looking at things, both factually and morally. Those who use TE are known to use tried and tested methods, which are known to work, rather than experiment with new approaches. When Moira first meets Vivian, she informs her how the house needs to be treated in a certain way, and immediately tells Vivian that her method for cleaning the floor is wrong, and explains the way it should be done. Those with TE are often great at doing whatever task they set out to achieve. Moira throughout the story is always working towards a goal, whether it be to ruin Ben and Vivian's marriage, or trying to get her dead body moved off the premises. In the example stated before regarding the origin of the word hysteria, not only does this demonstrate a combination of her SI and FI, but also her TE. Moira is using facts to justify her viewpoint and in turn makes her seem like a more reliable source of information. Her last function is NE. Moira's weakness seems to be that she would often fail to notice different possibilities to any given situation. She is so set in her worldview that she ignores anything which contradicts that opinion, having the firm belief that that instance was a one-off and things will go back to the way she expects. This can be seen when she refuses to acknowledge Ben's unwillingness to cheat. Another example of her weak NE is when she doesn't consider the possibility that Eskandarian is just playing her and is lying, and flat out rejects the idea when Constance initially tells her so. Now we have Larry Harvey, an ENTP. His functions go extroverted intuition, introverted thinking, extroverted feeling, and lastly introverted sensing. Larry is a man who seems to get excited by new possibilities and ideas, and uses a lot of improvisation in his planning. Whenever Larry confronts Ben, whether in a friendly demeanour or a menacing one, Larry seems to adapt his approach in the moment. This indicates that he hasn't put too much thought into a long-term plan trying to get Ben to leave the house, but rather he tries out various techniques to see which one is most effective. Larry's high NE is also why he may be drawn to Constance. Larry craves excitement and Constance provides that need in his life. Larry's last function is SI, meaning it's likely he doesn't hold much importance in terms of order and sentimentality, and thus found his marriage boring and uneventful. When trying to manipulate Ben, Larry seems to be generally enjoying himself, seeing it all as a game. Larry's second function is TI. Larry uses his various exploits to gain information of those around him, most notably Ben. When Larry elicits certain emotional responses from his victim, he will analyse the results and thus will adapt his approach in the future. Similarly, he seems to use his TI to try and work out the best way to impress and win back Constance. His third function is extroverted feeling. Similarly to Constance, Larry is great at reading other people and the emotional states they are in. Larry will attempt to use that to his advantage, playing on other people's weaknesses, or using whatever it takes to persuade them into achieving whatever he desires. Perhaps another reason why he is so infatuated with Constance is because her FE and therefore her manipulation skills are superior, making him awestruck. Let's go to the very beginning of the timeline to analyse Charles Montgomery, who is an INTP. Meaning his functions are introverted thinking, extroverted intuition, introverted sensing, and extroverted feeling. This is the same personality type as Violet. Charles is the archetype of the mad scientist, experimenting on human bodies, creating Frankenstein-like monsters. Charles's first function, TI, and his second function, NE, is what makes him so interested in his experiments. Although many of his experiments have been failures, he analyses the results and applies the knowledge he has gained towards future experiments. His high NE fuels his desire to uncover new possibilities, always aiming to create something marvellous, eventually turning his dead infant child into the demon baby which roams the murder house to this day. Charles's third function allows him to recall data from his previous experiments and compare them to whatever project he is currently working on. Those with weak SI may often neglect their bodies or health, ignoring it or regarding it as unimportant. Charles is a rather unkempt man with a drug addiction, which greatly affects his work performance. Charles doesn't acknowledge this as a problem, however, and seems to be dependent on the drugs, and uses them any time he begins a surgical procedure. Charles's last function, FE, is what drives him to please his wife and the public with his scientific achievements. At the same time, this function seems largely underdeveloped, which contributes to his toxic relationship with Nora. Although in season 5, Charles has been shown to be generally warm towards the girls who come to visit him. Charles may suffer from Asperger's, a form of autism which causes those with this condition to think about the world differently. Those with Asperger's often have above average intelligence and may form cognitive obsessions, in this case Charles and his creations. Lastly, we have Nora Montgomery, the wife of Charles. Nora is an INTJ, the mirror type of Larry. Her function order goes introverted intuition, extroverted thinking, introverted feeling, and lastly extroverted sensing. Nora is pretty underdeveloped as a character. Her weird memory loss as a ghost doesn't really help, but this is my conclusion. Her first function is NI. Nora can be an opportunist at times. Having a social reputation she wants to keep up, she comes up with ideas for Charles and her to make money, and thus decides to start the abortion clinic. This is heavily tied to her TE, which is a very realistic, practical function, which is focused on action. These two functions has led to her being a very ambitious person, but being a woman in the 20s, it was nearly impossible for her to make use of her ambition as well as she would in today's society. And thus, with Charles caring more about his experiments than money or their social reputation, Nora often finds herself at odds with him, angry that he isn't more ambitious. Her third function is FI. Nora seems to have some pretty set views in life, including how Charles should behave. She desires to have a child since her firstborn was murdered, but in reality, as Moira puts it, Nora doesn't have a motherly bone in her body. This indicates that FI isn't well developed as she doesn't truly know what she wants, and merely desires a child because it's a preconceived idea on wanting something she doesn't have. Her last function is SE. Nora seems to enjoy material items and money quite a lot, a sign that she possesses SE. However, throughout the story you see how undeveloped this function is with her. She does not like to face things going on around her if she finds them stressful, and thus gets the maids to take care of their child whenever he cries, but being extremely upset when she sees the house has changed furniture and decorations. Thank you for watching, and make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'll be analysing more American Horror Story characters in the future.